back. That was a short break. All right. We're going to start you out with one. This is actually a Duke Ellington piece, but it's arranged in the style of Count Basie. I may explain a little bit more about that a little later. But this is one of my personal favorite tunes called In a Mellow Tone. Here's a hint, it's not very mellow. So hope you enjoy it. Saxophone and Arthur Spelman here. Okay, so now this next chart is one that I found in our library, and we went on a little learning excursion here in Jazz Band this year, and we were challenged to learn more of Count Basie's music and to learn about him whenever we went to the University of Houston Jazz Festival in February. And Noah Marmoleo, the director of jazz studies there, had a lot of good things to say to the kids whenever we went. He's like, you know, I urge everybody to play like a Basie tune or a Sammy Nestico chart on every concert that they have. And if you don't know, Sammy Nestico was he was an arranger for, I believe, the Air Force Band, and then he became one of the main arrangers for the Count Basie Band. So, and the Count Basie band ended up being kind of what we think of as normal big band type playing, like this today. So Duke Ellington's band was incredible. They did many things, but the way that Duke Ellington did things, like he would say, all right guys, I want you to play this chord, we're gonna do this chord, and band leader or section leaders, you can score it out how I like it, you know how I do it. And every time that they would play the chart, it would be just slightly different. Well, Count Basie was quite the opposite. Everything was meticulously organized on the page. And it's also kind of ironic whenever we compare their playing styles. So Duke Ellington was extremely flashy and symphonic, and Count Basie was also trained classically. However, his piano playing was quite sparse, and he would do a lot of one-note things. And the running joke in the Basie band was he would improvise so simply because he liked to talk to his friends, and that was quite literally true. Whenever you would be soloing, you'd just be like playing a one-note thing, just like talking to people. So anyway, this is a ballad called That Warm Feeling, and it was recorded by Count Basie's orchestra, written by Sammy Nestico, and this is a really laid-back type swing song, and it's going to feature Arthur Spell on the piano, and you're going to hear a lot of different dynamic contrasts. And one thing about this piece is that a lot of the articulations are right together, so hopefully we can do a good job of representing this piece for you. So this is That Warm Feeling. right, so this next one is backed by popular demand. The band had requested that we played this on this concert. I'm just like, we've already played it before. We're like, oh, we really want to play it again. So here we are playing it. So this is Honk, and it is very aptly named, and I think that you will understand why it is named Honk. All right, hope you enjoy it. Heard solos from Justin Barrera on trumpet, and then Steve Perez on bass trombone, John Hopper on baritone sax this time. I don't think he has enough saxophones up here. He literally asked me if he could play soprano sax before we started, so I guess 3 isn't good enough. So anyway, and then Joseph Hawkins on trombone as well. All right, our next chart is going to be one that you have most likely heard. If not, you may be living under a rock. This is Moonlight Serenade, and this is going to be featuring Macy Wilson on clarinet. So, those of you who don't know, Macy is a native clarinet player, and I twisted her arm. I actually started twisting her arm a couple years ago to be a jazz band when she was still in middle school. Because she could do this whole thing with her ear, and she's like, oh, I can play any note that I want to, and you sing it to me, I can play it. And yeah, I was like, yeah, you need to be a jazz band. She's like, nah. I'm like, yeah, you need to be a jazz band. Nah. You need to be a jazz band. Okay. So, and she's just she's done an incredible job here. So this is Moonlight Serenade, as played by Glenn Miller. Hope you enjoy it. right, so this next song that we're going to play, this is one that I heard on a Chick Corea album, and from the minute I heard it, it just kind of struck me. It was a really short song. It was like only a minute and a half long, and I could never get it out of my head after I heard it. It's called Children's Song, and I did some research on it, and Chick Corea went to write like 20 something or more children's songs, and I guess he has the imagery in his mind where, you know, he would like imagine children playing and doing all sorts of things, you know, and he wrote this song, and it was kind of inspired by that, but he recorded it on his album Light as a Feather. And if you may have heard that album, maybe not, it's the one that has Spain on there and a bunch of other hits from Chick Corea. However, there weren't any arrangements of this available for big band, and I'm like, well, I want to see if we can play this. So I had to, I tracked down this version of it on MuseScore, because the original printed music is no longer in print, and was able to track that down, and I had to construct and recreate and transcribe the chart the way that Chick Corea and his group performed this. And so we're going to perform this piece, and it's going to feature Arthur Spell on piano, and Josiah Gospel on bass, and Cadence Johnson on percussion accessories. So this is Children's Song number 1, as recorded by Chick Corea. All right, so our final song this evening, we're going to pull out all the stops for this one. I heard this song and saw that we had an arrangement of it, and I thought it might fit us pretty well. And so this is called Haitian Fight Song, and I had us do a little bit of research on this as well. It's written by Charles Mingus, and Charles Mingus was a bass player, incredible musician, and without getting too political here, he was very politically motivated with some of his music, and he did not shy away from speaking on or writing about or composing about certain political themes. So this song is originally written about the Haitian Revolution, where the Haitian slaves actually rose up against their masters and overtook the country. And so he used that as kind of a springboard for what was going on during the Civil Rights Movement. This piece was written in 1964, like right around the time that the March on Washington happened. And there were a lot of extreme political tensions in the country during that time. And he used this kind of as a vehicle and a comparison about what was kind of going on in America at the time. So once we discussed about those type of topics during class, and the kids were like, oh, I kind of get it now. And then it just kind of clicked. And once we understand the source material, then we can really start to get to the intent of the composer and really get down to the meat and potatoes of the music. So we're pulling out all the stops for this one, and you're going to hear solos from, let's see, Alice Crochet on trombone, and Justin Barrera on trumpet, and then John Allo on saxophone again. And you'll hear some Cadence Johnson as well on some drum set. So, I forgot like the biggest solo. So it starts out with a bass solo, because Charles Mingus, well, he's a bassist. And Josiah is going to do a bass solo at the beginning and at the end. Sorry, Josiah, I almost forgot you, but so. And he's also using a fretless bass, and that's kind of cool. So anyway, this could be awesome. So, all right, this is Haitian Fight Song, and thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. It's been great to perform for you all, and we'll see you in the near future. Thank y'all for coming out tonight.